Good evening, everyone, and welcome to my home. It's actually my living room. So, and if you look around, you might say it's the home of an alcoholic. Quite some stuff, but it's not an alcoholic. It's just people who like to have good drinks. So, welcome to my home, and welcome to day number 10. Yes, day number 10 of the BCC's 12 Days of Christmas. So it's already Wednesday. We got 2 more days, and a week from then it's going to be Christmas time. So welcome here for what they call, or what we call, the Chairman's Cocktail. So you might wonder, where's that coming from? So when we decided to do the 12 Days of Christmas, we were just brainstorming about ideas. What could we do during the 12 days? And everybody said, I could do this, I could do that. And I said, I could do a cocktail, because I love cocktails. I love doing cocktails together with my lovely wife. We do that regularly, so I said we could do that, and it somehow stayed on the agenda, and tonight is the night. So I need to tell you how to do a good cocktail, and I hope you're gonna like it. Why would I talk about cocktails? Actually, I love cocktails. I love discovering new tastes, new fragrances, because actually it's also in the nose. Cocktails are really something for the senses. So it all started actually about 10 years ago. 10 years I love to travel. I've been traveling a little bit around, and I would say around 2010 there started to be this hype that was called speakeasies. And one of the big speakeasies was in New York City. It was called Milk and Honey. Milk and Honey was actually also in London. It was a private club, and I was in New York. And I read about it like so many times in the newspaper, and they said, you need to go to Milk and Honey because that's a speakeasy. And they're doing cocktails. So what is a speakeasy? You probably remember speakeasies, actually. It was those bars that existed during Prohibition in the United States. So between 1920 and 1930-ish, 33 I think, there was Prohibition. So it was forbidden to produce or to trade or to drink alcohol. So of course people love to drink alcohol. They would find these cozy little places or hidden places where they would drink alcohol and do crazy things, dance music and all of it. Was the whole culture of the 20s. But it was called speakeasy because you were supposed to speak very easily, very low, so that nobody could hear you. And of course, with the end of Prohibition, speakeasies died. Problem is, with the end of speakeasies, alcohol drinking in that way also died. I'm going to come back to that maybe when we're going to mix a cocktail. But so speakeasies became newly fashioned in the 2009, 10, 11, in that area, 2009, 10, 11. So we'd go to a big city, you would go to New York, you would go to London, you would go to Shanghai, or you would go to Brussels or Paris, wherever you would like to go. There were not really speakeasies in Luxembourg, there's actually one. You try to find these spaces that were hidden, and we need to find out the secret key to get there. So the Milk and Honey in New York, first of all, you needed to find the email address. Then you would send an email and you'd say, please, 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 I would like to come and have a drink. And then they would tell you where it is, and you would be there at 9:30 in the evening, and there would be a bell somewhere that you would ring, that somebody would open the door and you would go in. So it was a whole story. So the cocktail really is like the star in the middle of a big show that you're living during that evening. And so I really discovered my love for speakeasies, the love for these secret hidden places, at the same time as cocktails. So it was really fun. And we started doing our cocktails on our own. So we're doing this for 10 years and having a lot of fun with it, still discovering new things, and I think it's time to do a cocktail. So please come with me, we go into my kitchen. Okay, so here we are in my mini bar. These are the stars of the evening. Alcohol, 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 and sugar. And some fruit. Cocktail. I told you about speakeasies. Remember, speakeasy, really, if you travel, try to discover speakeasy. If you love cocktails, try to discover speakeasies. I told you about the place I've been in New York. I've been in a telephone booth. I've been in a flower shop. I've been walking through a fridge. So it's these crazy spaces that you're going to find, and you need to find the way into the speakeasy. Those were the stories about speakeasy. But the story about cocktails. So where does the name come from? You Google it and you'll find out there are like 200,000 theories about where cocktail, the name, comes from. I would basically say, lots of people say it's early 1806, 1830, etc., when people started talking about it. It's actually, the original cocktail is alcohol, sugar, water, and bitter. And here you see our bitter collection. So these are the stars of the bitter world. Normally most people know this one. This is Angostura, so it's very famous. Then many people know Pisho, which is great as well. I'll talk about that in a second. Then lots of people know orange bitter. Orange bitter is great if you love whiskey sour. Whiskey sour, don't forget to put a little bit of orange bitter on it. So these are bitters. Bitters, water, alcohol, and sugar. Actually, lots of good books to read about alcohol. So this is a book about bitters. And it basically says about the origin of cocktails. So this is 1806. It says, these drinks serve to lubricate voters at a political rally. So cocktail is a stimulating liquor composed of spirits of any kind, sugar, water, and bitters. It is vulgarly called a bittered sling, and it is supposed to be an excellent electioneering potion inasmuch as it renders the heart stout and bold at the same time that it fuddles the head. Okay. But what about the bitters? So bitters is really, they used it as medicine. It's basically, it's called a tincture, aromatic bitter, and you just use a couple of drops of it. So it was really used during Prohibition because they said it's medicine. Yeah. It still is, somehow. So bitters are aromatic flavoring agents made from infusing roots, barks, fruit peel, seeds, spices, herbs, flowers, botanicals, blah, 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 blah. They possess medicinal priorities. So you should have a couple of them. So these are the bitters. Now, cocktail. One of the first mentioning of really cocktail is Pisho. It's 1830, something around 1830. And it's actually, it still survives. 1830, it's 200? No, 190 years, yes. So it's Antoine Pichot. His family, they made this tincture, this bitter, and they used it just to put into water. They drank just water and put it in. And Antoine Pichot invented what they call the Sazerac. The Sazerac is actually a brandy. It's a French brandy that they used as alcohol, and then they put a little bit of sugar in it. They would take a sugar cube, they put a couple of drops of bitter on it, they would muddle it with a little bit of water, and then add the alcohol. And that would be the Sazerac cocktail. Brandy, bitter, sugar, and water. Over time, they change it. Today, it's a very, very famous cocktail, the Sazerac. It's actually, they don't take the French brandy, but they take rye whiskey. And we even have the brand. This is the Sazerac Rye. So this is rye whiskey. And what has changed with the Sazerac cocktail is, it's still basically, you take a sugar cube, you put a couple of drops of this on it, you muddle it with water, then you take absinthe. You take absinthe and you make a rinse in a glass, you add this with the sugar and everything, and you get a Sazerac cocktail. So it's basically sugar, water, Pisho, absinthe rinse, and this. The rinse is really interesting. It's if the alcohol is too heavy, you just put a little bit of the alcohol in the glass, you just rinse it, and you throw it out. So this is the Sazerac. First book about cocktails, 1830. But more recently, and that's where we started, or I started thinking about cocktails, it was 2010, I said 10 years ago. There's a guy called Colin Field, and he's the head mixologist at the Ritz Bar in Paris. And I got to know the guy, and he had a book. So he talked about making cocktails. Mr. Colin Field, he's a big, big, big man in the cocktail world. And actually what he says, what makes a good cocktail? And that's basically, if you say, well, it's not what we used to drink when we were students, you know, the pina colada and all that, and the whiskey Coke and the Long Island iced tea. Watch out, Long Island iced tea is very, very tough. No, basically a good cocktail is very good ingredients. So the better the alcohol, the better the cocktail. So if somebody says we want to have a tequila cocktail, forget the tequila that you buy at the gas station, or the one that you got drunk at that school, making those little drinks with Pepsi or whatever. It's the quality of the ingredient, the first point. Then it's precision. It's like cooking, and that's really interesting. If you take a look at all the mixologists today, it's like cooking. It's something very delicate the way you're gonna do it. You can take pure alcohol, but you can also take the alcohol, you take this thing, you take basil, etc. You put it in here, you infuse the alcohol with matcha tea, with whatever you want to have in there, and the alcohol changes, and you're going to do something different. So you can invent new things. So it's good ingredients. It is simple. Simple is something that's really important. It should be equilibrated, and it should be simple. And that's actually what Colin Field says. He says a really good cocktail is basically 3 ingredients. And if you really reduce it, you could have 2. And if you want to do a martini, it could be just 1. But basically he says it's 3 ingredients. And he describes it like when you create a cocktail, he says it's like a tree. So imagine the tree. You have the tree, so you have the base part of the tree with the roots. That's the alcohol. It's going to be whiskey, gin. Don't take vodka. There are cocktails with vodka, but vodka, like Colin Field would say, vodka is unflavored, so there's no real taste to it. But gin, whiskey, rum, etc. That's going to be the base of the tree, and then the tree you have branches. And Field, he says, every tree has got 2 branches, one to the left, one to the right. To the right is what he calls a modifier. So the modifier could be vermouth, but it could be a juice, it could be fruits, it could be anything fresh that you're going to add to it. It's going to make it a little bit more sugary, it's going to make it more, it's going to create more structure. And then to the other side of the tree is going to add like lemon. It could be lemon or anything else. So you got modifiers on 2 sides. The one is going to be more acid, the other one is going to be more sweet. And the 2 are going to somewhere linked to each other. So a good cocktail for you is a base alcohol, maybe something sour, something sweet, and you're going to decide if the branch is going to be longer or shorter. Is it going to be more on the sugary side, more on the acid side. And one of the traditional cocktails to illustrate this is a sour. Sour is a family of cocktails. You have different families. You have old fashions, you got sours, you got slings, you got fizzes, etc. Those are all cocktail types. The sour is basically sour, so you need acid. So not acid, but you need something sour. You need lemon or lime. Potato head. Have you heard about potato head? Potato head is basically something you put together, you exchange one piece, and it's still going to be a potato head. It's going to be something different. Doing cocktails, if you want to remember different cocktail recipes, thinking about potato head is a good way to do it. Why? Let me show you. You can have, basically, you could have gin. You could have an orange liquor. For example, you could have Cointreau. So you're going to take gin. You're going to take Cointreau as the sweet agent, and you're going to take lime as the sour element. So it's going to be basically 3 things: gin, Cointreau liquor, orange liquor, and lemon or lime. That's going to be called White Lady. That's the name of the cocktail. A White Lady is gin with orange and lime. Now you just exchange this. You take this away, and you're going to put brandy, cognac. Cognac with exactly the same other elements is going to be called a sidecar. Forget the brandy, take rum. It's going to be called an XYZ cocktail. And finally, just take tequila. You're going to take tequila, Cointreau, and lemon or lime, basically lime. It's going to be a margarita. So with one recipe, you already have 4 cocktails. You can have an XYZ, you can have a sidecar, you can have a White Lady, and a margarita. So it's going to be very easy, and that's the way you can remember cocktails. You just take a structure and you see how it evolves. The tree and the branches. Let's do a cocktail. I would say let's start with a sour. I'm going to do 2 cocktails actually. I wanted to do 2 cocktails. The first one is going to be something people love when they go to South America. It's a pisco sour. Pisco sour, very popular. You need pisco. What is pisco? Pisco is brandy. It's a grape alcohol. So it's like grappa, like, yeah, any kind of grape white alcohol. You get it also in oak, in a barrel, so it's going to be a little bit browner. But for a pisco, you're going to take the white one. And this one, you can even get it at Cactus. How do you do it? It's basically very easy. The way I'm going to do it is I'm going to take 2 measures of, come on, I do it over here, you see it better. So I'm going to take 2 measures of the alcohol. I'll take 1 measure of liquid sugar. I'm going to take 1 measure of lime juice. Come on, let's have it all. Just going to quickly stir this. That's the basis. That's the pisco sour. But what makes the pisco sour so lovely? It is the magic of egg white. Egg white really makes this foamy and lovely. How do you succeed in foamy and egg white? There are actually 2 ways of doing it. I love to do it in 2 steps. The first is called dry shake. So basically, you take the egg, you put the white in there. Oops. There it is. That's enough for 1 drink. So the egg white is in there. You take the other part of the shaker. Now comes the heavy part. You put it on there, and you go. And you shake, and you shake. This is the dry shake. So this is the first step of making the foam. It's already a little bit foamy, but it's not cold. So the next step is we need to put ice in it. And that's the wet shake. So after the dry shake, I'm going to put about 3, let's say 3 ice cubes in there. So I already have some foam. I'm going to put this on again. Hope it's going to work as well as the first time. And here we are. When it's starting to get cold, you know that you have found the right temperature. And here is our pisco sour. Hello. Peru. If you go to Peru, go to Cusco, go to Hotel El Monasterio. That's where I bought this and brought it back. So, I've got still ice cubes in there, so I need to watch out with the ice cubes. Here it is. And now, Angostura. Couple of drops, you need to watch out because they're getting out pretty quickly. 1, 2, 3. And here is our pisco sour. Isn't it beautiful? I get a little bit everywhere, but this is the pisco sour. How about another one? Let me try that. Beautiful. I would like to do a second cocktail. That's actually a very easy one. It's really an easy one, and you're gonna see it's a funny one because again, you can improvise on it. And the second one is called Negroni. Negroni, friends of mine know that I love Negroni. When you travel, Negroni time, it's normally at 5, 6 o'clock in the afternoon after work or 7 o'clock, you want to have Negroni time. Negroni is one of the easiest cocktails that is on this planet, but it's great. Show you how to do it. Up! Here's my glass. I thought I put it in the freezer. Negroni is basically 3 things. It is gin. I'm gonna take Old Rash gin. It is a bitter Campari, and it's a sweet vermouth. I take Dolin. And the easy thing about it is 1 and 1 and 1. So you basically just take this, fling it, don't need this anymore. You take 1 gin, the basic recipe says 1, 1, 1, and again, precision. So you might decide how you like it, how you prefer it. I prefer it on the alcohol. So I'm going to take almost the same amount of sweet vermouth, but I'll be a little bit slower on the bitter. So very often if you go to a bar, it might be too bitter, tell the guys, do a little bit less Campari, and that's going to be fine. So that's this. And of course, you need an ice cube. And for a big drink, you need a big ice cube. So this is a big ice cube. And I said that cocktails is something for all your senses. Orange peel. You take a nice orange peel. And actually the thing is, you need to spray the orange oil on the glass, because when you're gonna drink your Negroni, the first thing you're gonna have is the nose. It's gonna be very orangey, and then it's gonna be beautiful. What you can do, of course, before you put that in, you could just turn it 6-7 times just to ensure that it's cold, and then you try it again. Oh, it's not cold enough, you do it again. The nice thing about the Negroni is, again, that potato head. It's 1, 1, 1, so it's gin, vermouth, and Campari. But you can easily change it. So you can go, I actually wrote that down to remember it. So you can replace this, the gin, you can replace it with rye whiskey, and it's going to be called an Old Pal. An Old Pal is the same thing, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 1. You could just add a little bit of absinthe. So you keep these 3 and you just add a little bit of absinthe, and it's going to be called a quill. You could use this and add a little bit of bubbles, champagne, whatever, and it's going to be called a Famiglia Reale. And you could do it without the Campari, and it's going to be called an Americano. And that's one of the oldest drinks that people know. It's Americano is vermouth plus gin. But of course, you could replace this by tequila. You could put tequila and a little bit of nut liquor, etc. And it's going to be different. So just try it out. We have another year ahead of us. It's going to be 2021. And it's going to be time for cocktails and drinks and fun and pleasure and hopefully a lot of good health. So that was it. Thank you very much for having been with me and my KitchenAid, my bar aide, my cameraman today in my kitchen for this cocktails, this challenge cocktails class. So I hope you liked it. I hope to see you soon in 2021 for one of our BCC events. I hope you want to have great holidays, great Christmas, a happy new year. You're all safe, that you're all feeling good, and that we're going to have great times next year together at the BCC and around Luxembourg. All the best to all of you, and have fun and have great cocktails. Bye-bye.